set up because I can't do this without the music. Um, then we'll get started. Oh, hello, friends. I let me know how this sounds. Is adjusting things now. Hello. The music's too loud or too low. Set to get started. So I'm gonna be putting everything on this doc here. I'm just kind of copying some of the questions so that we've got them here and we got them recorded. That way they can be visible as we're answering them. Seems good. Thank you. Welcome. Also gonna be trying to chow down in between questions here. I was playing or I was trying to play some D&D with my nephew and my daughter, because my nephew seems to really have gotten the D&D bug, which is great, but also has led to so many questions and a desperation to play that I'm like, oh yes, I forgot how this is. So telling him all the time of like, we're gonna play later, and he's like, when are we gonna play? Has been a lot of fun, but and then building out their little world for them to play in has been hilarious because yeah, just seeing the things they create is just so funny. So yeah, we was doing that, and then they were like, what do you mean we have to stop right now? And I'm like, guys, the game never ends. It could go on forever. At some point we've got to stop. He chose sorcerer dragonborn. He really likes lizards. He really likes dinosaurs and stuff. So, and dragons. His favorite Pokemon's Charizard. So it was a real challenge for me to try to convince him not to play a dragonborn. So we just went with it. But he was like, I gotta be a lizard. So, and then my daughter, she's playing a tiefling. He's playing a tiefling. He's playing a dragonborn sorcerer. She's playing a tiefling wizard, and they're both ex-criminals. So we'll see what shenanigans they get into. But yeah, it was fun. Okay, so let's get started with our questions here. First one is from Martin. A little formatting here. There we go. If you got to add any new personality to the Hasselhoff Goblin family, who would they be? She's a criminal wizard. Yeah, yeah, they were already talking about hiring Muscle, but then they were like, wait, but then we gotta split the loot. We can't do that. Let's just go. So it was funny. They were thinking. The Hasselhoff Goblin family has been so great. One of my favorite additions. I love our cat family too, but just the way in which like everyone has been developing them so uniquely, but also like the sort of ties. Kid knows what he likes. Lizards are cool. He could play a dragonborn that dresses up as an alligator, even, or a dwarf that has dragon scales. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, he knows what he likes. So yeah, in terms of the goblins, we've got like a pretty good spectrum of different goblin types. I think it would be interesting to see one of the goblins be maybe like a sort of Zen goblin. I'm thinking like in Trolls, there's one of the trolls who's like a real meditative or like I don't know Zen type of troll or whatever, like like maybe not, maybe they haven't reached enlightenment, but a goblin who thinks they've reached enlightenment I think would be pretty funny. That's probably who I would add. Dana asks, have we uncovered any other themes or secret themes? I think you guys have spoke to Mark about redemption being a secret theme. Hey Nacho, speak of the devil. Let's see, what other secret themes have you guys gotten? I think pretty obviously ethics and morality. I think we have redemption. Old guys, you guys kind of picked up. There's a lot of old guys. We've gotten mentors and mentorships and influences that has. So I'm trying to think, is there any other balance, light and dark? Yeah. I mean, guys, toss any out there if you think you've got any others that I have forgotten about or haven't brought up or you're curious about. I feel like there's also some themes that I find that are like found family was a theme that we already started with. Secret twins. Definitely alternate versions of yourselves. It's not been a secret theme, but it has been reoccurring. And so there are themes that are like, I don't intend for them to come up, but they just seem to organically pop up. So those, I find those to be pretty funny. You said freedom, not quite sure. Freedom for sure is one of the secret themes. Yeah. That's really inspired by One Piece and Luffy and what does it mean to be free? What does it mean to live your life freely? And yeah, so freedom is definitely one of the themes too, but that's not redemption. No, the redemption theme is more like, you know, there's a lot of our characters who have done bad things, who are doing bad things, or have gotten themselves in situations. And you know, like I mentioned with Oz in the beginning, you know, Oz started this campaign like as a full-fledged criminal who was like a henchman who, you know, was like, I'm gonna take control now, I'm gonna be, and was definitely like a murderer. No, killing Mark's characters is just something that Mark that's his own pastime and not mine. But the idea of, you know, what does it mean to be redeemed? What does it mean to find redemption? Can a person ever go so far that they cannot be redeemed? And kind of like looking at some of the other places, like with the fiends and things like that. He's only died once, but he's remained dead, I guess. So like, I think I mentioned like in the one of the chats, you know, an angel can fall from grace, but a demon or devil cannot ascend again to heaven. And it's kind of like this notion that like goodness, it's almost like inevitable that you will fail at some point. So why is it so impossible to find redemption and to find and to turn your life around? So yeah, that's been fun. Ryan did reference the old man theme there. Just like, you know, old dudes, maybe it's just more like my you know, no offense to any of our older players, but maybe it's like my mortality of like, oh man, I'm getting old, and like starting to like think about that and what influence I think that might have on me. So yeah. Ori Tanya asks, from the fallout from Paradise 1, are there any NPCs or other character losses or issues as a result we don't know of yet? Issues and complications, pretty guaranteed. Where's the Neville Longbottom? Sometimes you need to stand against your friends theme. Yeah. The hmm. You know what's funny is that I don't feel like PvP was an intended theme, but that's one that has come up much more this time than I intended, which is funny. Um, but I think it's also that like everyone's made stronger like choices in certain senses that have just put them in conflict with others. And as long as I feel like the conflict is respectful and as long as everybody is like understanding that it's the story and whatnot, then I feel like it's fine as long as it's not outwardly like I'm gonna kill this person because I want their sword, or, you know. And wait, what did you guys do to Parasite 1? Did you kill the jerk who made that door? They sure tried to stop the creator. So in terms of character losses, I think definitely some of the fallout from Melira's temple being gone. There might be some unintended consequences there. I know Dana did not like the yes, you could say that. I know Dana did not like the priest who was there, but it would have been interesting to meet him in a different context. But yeah, you know, there may have been I think there may have been opportunities for you guys to meet other people who were on vacation there. That would have been interesting. Who knows how that could have gone. Let's see. Oh. Twice. Who's the most famous animal in the verse and why? Grumpy Cat, Harambe, Keyboard Cat, etc. I don't know about the verse. Little Ricky's definitely very popular. But I kind of imagine though that I feel like there's like Little Ricky's popular, but there's gotta be if you guys ever watched like the Dexter's Laboratory, there was like Monkey, the super monkey. I don't know why, but I feel like there's gotta be like a cosmonaut monkey out there who's like way more famous that people are like, oh yeah, this guy he is like blessed by the sepulcher of light, and he's just like a more famous monkey. Maybe monkeys are a secret theme. I don't know. Let's see. Lou asks, did I have anything queued up for if I asked Penlador's soul coin to help Eli get rich or blackmail his friends? Yes, I did. Oh, yes, we talked about this. Oh, did Rufy Priest recognize Sphina? Why did he Rufy? Yes, he did recognize Sphina and did try to subtly get rid of her. Mark says that Rufy Priest was probably the only one on Paradise who ended up in heaven. Yeah, I did have plans for if you asked Penlador about plans to get rich or even if you attempted to like bargain for his soul and be like, let's maybe we'll get you your soul free or something. You tell us. So yeah, that could have gone some interesting ways. Let's see. Tanya asks, what happens if a character did go off and join the coalition or go to prison? Do they earn any XP while there, or are they frozen where they are? Generally, they're not frozen where they are. They may have some progress, but they aren't earning XP really in the same sense. They may get like a different feat or something depending on how the circumstances are or where they went and what they did. But like for example, in the last campaign, Mark, his character Fizz, got himself arrested and thrown into Impel Down, essentially like the strictest prison, the place where like they throw people who are really just enemies of the Empire. And he was there for like 6 months. Like good astrogator, if we went back to him. Well, that astrogator, he might actually really be gaining experience where he is, because his deal was like that was way more intense. Easier ways to get Tavern Brawler. Yeah. Death Camp for sure. So he spent like 6 months there. His character's just gone out of the story, and you know, soul eating Death Camp. Yeah. So sometimes Uh, you know, I always feel like this is maybe the most controversial thing about me, which is how very willing I am to allow your characters to uh I guess screw themselves over. And I do try like to give like some warning sometimes, or be like, hey, this may be like a more permanent decision. Um, but in other cases, sometimes it just feels like this is what the character might want to do. So like JB had Carnegie in last campaign, who um, ended up wanting to join the Wild Hunt and ended up leaving the campaign to do so, and was gone for a while before he came back. Um, and I just think like being able to make those kinds of choices, being able to have the agency to really affect your character in one way or the other is kind of like the whole point of the game. And it might just be my experience as a DM where I didn't like not railroading. Sometimes railroading gets a bad rap where it's like no, sometimes you do need to like push your characters, your players towards like a plot so that they can have like a satisfying story. And if you don't, they will meander for too long. Came back, Vic killed him almost immediately, yeah. um but sometimes, like, I definitely know in the past I would get mad if I felt like I was trying to cause an action or have something happen for my character, and then the DM like either softened the outcome because they were like they didn't know how to handle it, or the DM was like, well, this isn't really in line with what I'm doing, so let's just kind of pull the, I guess, dull the claws of that, and then like, so that way we can just continue with the story. And I never really like that. But I also just like, if sometimes there are just moments where it's just right for a character to make an exit, and trying to superficially force them into continuing, I just don't feel like it's good for the story sometimes. So it's like there are times where it's like, yes, we need to do what we can to try to smooth over rough edges. But there's also times where it's like, hey, this is the exit, and you're in the lane. You could either continue getting off the exit ramp, or you could swerve back onto the path and try to keep hold there. So yeah, Tanya, I hope that follows the question, answers that question. But essentially, they'd be going off and having their own adventure. At that point, they're not like your character being controlled in that moment. They're more of an NPC out in the world and doing their own things. So, if they ever come back, like for example, Misty is currently gone. She's doing her own thing right now, going on her own adventure outside of the RAQ. And if she ever does come back, I would talk with Martin and be like, hey, this is what Misty's been up to this time. And it kind of is a surprise for him, and kind of also allows her to still explore that side of her narrative without having to make it a logistical problem of like, well, how do we fit you in with the rest of the campaign and the rest of the cast? Adam says, as we all get more experience with 2024 rules and you get into higher levels, how's your take on the changes developing? Are there new possibilities you're seeing that seem cool? New issues that might need some tweaks? I think I definitely like the change. It does. Thank you. I was talking with a couple of other people about that. Yeah, totally. That's the thing too, is like we play these characters, and sometimes you don't know exactly what is going to be the reason. I think some players can sometimes struggle with like not knowing why this person would stick around, and it's hard to remember that like we are the ones who are writing this story, and we can decide like, I'm gonna figure it out later. Like, you know what, they do decide to stick around, and maybe it's because they're just going through with emotions, or maybe it's because you're gonna find your answer later on. Much like when you make your character in the first place, you don't know all the arcs they're gonna go on, and you don't even really have a fleshed out idea. Sometimes you can have your character have a sudden change, and it's like you don't need to go through the effort of us in real life being like, and now I'm a person who eats healthier and I did all the work. And it's like, no, my character did the work, and I'll figure out what that work means later on. So anyway, back to the 2024 rules. I definitely am happy with the changes. I'm also very happy with my decision not to continue with Wizards of the Coast and their future books, as I've been keeping up with the UA releases and some of their attempts at updating some of the other classes. And it's very clear to me that they are sort of pushing themselves into a tighter, smaller box design-wise in order to satisfy the more casual fan base, and also in order to streamline some of their class updates for their subclasses and things like that from previous books. I don't really like it, but I do think that this rule set is easier to get new players involved in, to get new players understanding how the game works and how to kind of build their character and go forward. My grave character, yeah. I think so. Like some of the stuff I've introduced, like the custom feats and stances and things like that. A lot of that stuff is stuff that existed in 3.5 edition and in 4th edition, and so I do feel like with the system being a lot more stable, it allows me to introduce changes and introduce things and abilities and types of things that I could not have done in the previous campaign without it adding too much like super bloat. I tried to in certain cases where like certain items and abilities would give certain items and things would give different abilities that would be interesting, but it was a lot harder for me to just do the kinds of things I'm trying to do now, where I can really add different action types and abilities, and even I feel more inspired to add different condition types than I would have in the previous campaign or the previous rule set. So far, I don't think there's any tweaks that are needed. Like I said, it's been very stable considering we've been playing now for 9 months, and while there have been some things that I know I've needed to change specifically for the campaign type that we're running in, when I was playing 5e, like my homebrew list was like massive of like, okay, here are clear things I've identified as issues that I don't like and I'm gonna need to change. And some of those were things that were like to change player habits. Some of those things were more to change, just to shake things up. And I don't really feel that as necessary this time. I do notice in myself, I know, I can't believe 9 months, crazy. I do notice in myself that it's taken me some time to adjust to some of the design, where I can now do a lot more environmental stuff that I feel like I haven't been doing as much of. And that's more been me like trying to figure out exactly where the balance sits, because I think most DMs are like this too. Like you look at the CR challenge ratings and things like that, and you're like, after a while you realize like, oh, this doesn't actually help me at all, really. Like it's a reference, but isn't a good indicator of like how challenging a combat will be. And I feel like now I've definitely gotten a good sense of where that is, because I do my balance really a lot on vibes and a lot on like my experience of like players and their output and their power and things like that, but also through like testing. Sometimes I test and I'm like, okay, how much damage can they put out, you know, in a certain amount of time? How much damage can they take and mitigate in a certain amount of time? Those like kind of metrics kind of sit with me in my head and then give me a better idea for what I can do. But also just to make sure that like I don't like when combat gets too bloated and it takes too long, and then there's too many variables turn by turn, then that can lead to more choice paralysis. So I think that's the only thing that I've been a little bit more careful with in the higher levels, is trying not to cause as much of that. But now I feel a lot more comfortable as we're doing more sessions up there, where I'm like, okay, now I can start to add more complex things. And you know, there's good and bad with that. But yeah. Let's see here. Adam asks, the rising starting level for new characters and corresponding XP bumps for existing characters. Can you talk us through the thought behind that? Is it about mechanical balance or making it easier for characters to play together without training weights? Or is it narrative? The RAQ success means Simon can be more selective about who he lets into the RAQ, and our camera activity does constitute some level of experience for characters, so XP bumps. This is mainly because when I think about the game, I also cannot help but think about it as it is now, but also how it will be a year from now. And one thing with the last campaign was that the further we got into that campaign, the harder it was to have either characters who are joining and who are able to have as much of an impact on the story and the players. Hold on a second. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Sorry, y'all. I had one of my cousins just show up today. Didn't know they were coming. So a lot of that is like my thoughts on like in the future. When we do reach the end of the campaign, I want everyone to be able to have an equal opportunity to influence the campaign, to have an impact on it, and to let's have a higher chance of everybody kind of being around the same level. It is also like the logistical stuff of it is easier. I feel like part of the reason why people needed so many new characters was because when new people were joining, those characters would then need to be at the level of those new people who are joining. And then also players who kind of like are joining and feeling like, oh, well, my character's at this low level and there's a huge gulf between me and these other characters. I'm never going to have the impact on the story that they're going to have. And kind of sucking the fun out a little bit of the campaign, I think, through that. But also wanting to keep like a tighter band of like the characters level. Like, okay, we have characters now from level 6 to 15. Okay, cool. And that lets us that makes it easier for me to prepare quests. So when I'm putting quests out there, I can kind of know like, all right, they're all going to be around this range. And I don't have to spend as much effort of being like, okay, now let me also think of what are some low level quests that I have to add that are going to be for level 4 and 5 characters again still. So a lot of it's that. I also do like when mechanics support the narrative. So I do like the idea of the RAQ kind of outgrowing really like a lot of Canberry's smaller issues, or just some of the simpler things where it's like, yeah, we don't need to be spending as much time going to the Serpapar Den and clearing out those guys or fighting some bandits in the woods. It allows me to focus more on developing more cohesive plot lines and threads that can then be more narratively satisfying, and also means that others will get a chance to become part of those plot lines without having to like be power leveled all the way through or go through so much in order to still be involved. So for our characters and our players who aren't able to play as much as some of the others, they're still able to like be in a pretty good spot, I think, story wise and power wise, where it's like they aren't so far behind the rest where it's like, okay, you guys are doing the real stuff and we're just kind of messing around. I want everyone to kind of feel like they are having just as much impact. And so that was one of the methods. Yeah. Also too, because like it's just easier to design for certain levels of play at once than it is to be like, all right, let me now plan for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 and tier 4. That is a headache. And then he also asks, which is somewhat linked, in universe, how does Simon feel about what's going on? The rapid rise to fame of his organization and his most successful racketeers doing a lot of extracurricular activities rather than work for hire through him. Simon seems very different from Nisha, who was the leader of the Midnight Pact Guild, to Adam. He's more an agent, less a leader. Is that how you see him? Does he have a backstory we can get into? Simon does have a backstory. I've had it written since the beginning of the campaign. um, I do definitely view it that way too, and it kind of a lot of it has to do with just the premise of the campaign in general, of this being more of a corporate business type of guild than one of like heroes who are gathering and want to do good and things like that. So I think the premise overall lends itself to that feeling. Simon is kind of ambivalent in a lot of ways. He doesn't. He's pretty neutral. He's like, he wants what's good for the business, and he doesn't really care too much about like how the RAQ is spending their time outside of it, as long as it doesn't negatively affect the RAQ with their extracurricular activities. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be big jobs that are going to come through where he knows he's going to get a cut of them, so it's fine for him. But he is definitely a very different leader of the group. But I would be interested if seeing if people got more involved with him or just talk to him more, because he's always there, but he's also like a brooding type. Okay, Dana asks, what has been your favorite reveal so far? Simon sees the Paradise 1 info and just closes the article. Yeah, he's like probably like, they're somehow involved in this. I'm not gonna look into this. Like, that's too much. Okay. I think he's also someone who is very much like, I know when not to involve myself. Like, it's fine. So what has been your favorite reveal so far, and have there been any near misses on reveals that we later did uncover but not in the way you originally anticipated? Maybe it's recency bias, but definitely the Seraphina reveal has been so fun, just because it's like, twist, Simon goes to Paradise 1 once a month to pop his yeah. Tina said, don't question it too hard. Welcome, Adam. I think the Seraphina reveal was one that I've been like, it's been months of leading up to it. The hints, the things of like, this is what's going on, the people in their comments. It was very early on that like Fina got attacked and called a Void Witch. So I like that. I think the reveal of Talvik being Rin's brother, I think was one that I liked a lot, because while I definitely wanted to put hints out there that like, hey, this guy kind of looks like Rin, I didn't really expect, I guess mainly Dana, to like tell and the Void Princess, let's not forget the nice insults, yeah, slander. I did not expect them to tell Rin so much. Like, there's a lot of information in the campaign that is given to people in piecemeal, and while I do expect you guys to like kind of talk to each other, that's kind of the point of like, this person might have a little bit of this information and this person might have a little bit of that, and you guys kind of talk and kind of establish what you think is the truth from there. So I feel like that led to there being more of an effort for Rin to want to then go and pursue him. And that might have, honestly, that alone might have led to like the rebirth of Chandra-La, because how I originally pictured it going was like kind of having like a maybe a Darth Vader, or I don't know, a very like dramatic scene of Rin and his brother, you know, meeting on the battlefield for the first time. Like, not meeting, we got to meet in very ideal circumstances for them to talk. It could have very easily have been like, he's there one day, he's there one day, you know, we open with combat, it opens up and starts fighting. Was John like, give my guy a familial connection to an enemy in his session 0, or could Talvik have ended up tied to anyone or no one? Rin, I am your brother. I definitely intended it for it. So John did not have any of that. He was just like, where's my family? I'm trying to look for them. I don't really know what happened to them. He leaves and he left it kind of open. So everything he's been finding out for the first time with you guys too. So, but I definitely had more of an idea that like, oh, they're gonna meet on the battlefield and Rin's gonna be like Rin, or like Tal, like especially because he, Rin calls him Zane. Says that's his brother's name. So I kind of expected there to be like a little bit of a twist of like, oh, Rin's hearing about this guy named Talvik who maybe he's just a Chandrelayan, maybe he's not related to him or something. And then meeting on the battlefield and then being like, oh no, this is my brother. Brother, what are you doing? And then like a whole big battle. And then, maybe he definitely hated, Fina to start. But like if he had built more of like an anger towards the RAQ, maybe him being like, I can't let this go, or I can't not fight you guys. We're enemies. We're sworn enemies. You've killed my men, or I've killed your guys. And, it would have been very different if Talvik had killed Fina or Oz at the start or something. So yeah, I did not know how that was going to go. So I was very surprised. It kind of ended up kind of best case scenario for Rin, really. So that was always fun. Yeah, I think those have been some of my favorites. I'm trying to think of what other reveals. There's so many reveals that I don't know. I can lose track of them sometimes. I did enjoy the reveal of Eileen being related to hey, no reason for sorry. That ended up leading to him reconciling with his brother and his brother turning to your guys' side. So all worked out. Definitely was excited about the Eileen reveal and to reveal what's coming more from there with Elris and seeing what happens. So yeah, I think that's. Oh, side funny reveal was Borin the turtle being related to Madame Salvora, them being siblings. Because that one I thought was very funny. And I didn't think anybody was going to expect that. Martin asks, what do you think are your main influences for the campaign so far? And I think a lot of the stuff I listed in the campaign primer. Still want to know about the gap. Secret family. Definitely One Piece influenced me a lot. Just the world and the world building, the way that it's done, influenced me a lot. I think, man, I don't know if anything inspired me more than that. I'm trying to think of what other stuff I've. Star Wars and Andor for sure, because Andor did not come out, or I didn't watch it in the previous campaign. And I think like just in general, like you guys and the stuff that you guys have been doing and focusing on has really influenced the campaign a lot more in this direction. That was the other thing about like a space campaign, is that like there's so much going on and so much to do. It really is about what you guys focus on and what you guys want to do. So seeing the kind of things that have interested you guys, the things that you have wanted to secret family must be a theme. I want to say it's a theme per se. Maybe if Oz's family secretly comes back to life. But the found family for sure has been one, but there's some other stuff that's still going on. Are we all on an Anakin arc? Well, I meant more like even some of the world building in Andor, incredible what it's done to expand. I'm honestly impressed with like how much I did not want Rogue One, and that ended up being one of my favorite Star Wars projects. And then how much I didn't want Andor, and I was like, what? That's such a dumb idea. You're gonna take this one guy, he was in one movie. You're gonna spread this out over how many seasons? Oh my god, what a terrible choice. And it truly is, I think, to me, the best Star Wars thing that exists. So yeah, I think that's been a big influence. Random side influence is kind of like a C tier anime. Go Evil Rangers or something like that, I think it's called, where there's like a a scenario where the Power Rangers are actually evil, and they have forced the bad guys into continuing these weekly fights so that they can have the people think that there is a danger going on and that they need the Power Rangers. That has been one. And then Full Metal Alchemist has been another one that I didn't expect to rely on so much, but has been very prevalent for me. Full Metal Alchemist, one of the best animes that's ever existed. So if you've ever seen it before, totally great. Not for children though. Martin also asked, if I was trapped in space and eating a roach was my only way to survive, would I? A little roach, like a little cockroach, I think I might be able to do it and handle it. Eating one of these psychic roaches, I don't think I could do it. I don't know if I could actually hold it down. I can't even eat a mushroom because I think about mushrooms and just the thought of them. It is the thought that bothers me. It's not the actual thing. Are we the evil Power Rangers? No, but sort of. I think maybe even like the Zodiac gods and their sort of deal is a little bit like that. With like, yeah. I don't know if I could eat a space roach. I don't think I could do it. The question you may have already answered this, but what inspired the fairy tale realm? Also, is this another plane? So I did not want there to be many different realms and planes of existence in this campaign. It's always bothered me how very built out the Forgotten Realms worlds are and how mapped out they are, where it's like you have, well, we know exactly how many layers of hell there are, and we know exactly that there's this realm and this goes in this place, and this is how the planar structure works, and this is how this works. I always find that it takes away from a lot of the exploration and the discovery of things, and so I kind of wanted to simplify things. Also, because this world does have a different, I guess, genesis like creation. Yeah, that world is already built out, and this world does have a different like creation mythos, so I kind of wanted to change that too, and also rely on other themes as well and explore that through the mechanics of the different planes. But I also wanted there to be different little like pocket places that were not as the Forgotten Realms doesn't have as much opportunity for growth and change. I wanted to be able to have more realms that were a little more weird and a little more unknown and a little bit a little stranger, like the Mirrorverse or the Shadow Realm. Like JB says, the Shadow Realm is a lot more abstract, and also the Fairy Tale realm, or the Land of Fairy Tale. I also we so heavily involved the Feywild in our last campaign. And so I didn't want to have that be another thing that came up too. But I also didn't want to completely ignore this entire genre of storytelling and this entire path that's there as well. So there's a lot of ideas that I had for the Feywild in the last campaign that I just didn't get to, or a lot of ideas that were things that I just always wanted to do. But because those other realms always felt so established with their lore, kind of felt like I couldn't really do those without messing things up and kind of taking away those expectations. So that's why I kind of went with the Fairy Tale realm. And these aren't different planes. I guess like demi-planes is probably their best descriptor, or maybe even like in Barovia or in the oh, now I'm forgetting what it's called. Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, like the various worlds that they have there. Maybe a little closer to that. But I like stories, and I like the idea of a realm and a world that is based on some of the more kind of like not primitive, but older stories that we have in society. The domains of dread. Yes, thank you. A little bit more like a domain. Are there any NPCs inspired by C1? We'll get to that in a second. So there are these different domains I kind of think are out there. And with like some of the older stories, like the Brothers Grimm stories, right? Like some of these stories have been in culture and in our world for so long. And I think also, even when you look at like Aesop fables and things like that, a sort of meta narrative commentary on stories and their importance to us and how they affect us. But I also like the idea of there being, I always play music in the games and I love music. I love the idea of there being a world where the music does have an impact. And so that's kind of like what I kind of inspired me in that sense. I don't think so far there's only one character who's I think it's two characters who are really inspired by in campaign 1 player character. Solani Morn is inspired. Well, I guess that's not a PC. She is a little bit inspired by Brother Landon and how kind of like her dedication from campaign 1. That's another NPC. I wouldn't really count Viconia DeVere because like Viconia is a canonical character and like has a different upbringing than Victoria DeVere of campaign 1. There are definitely some similarities between them, but I think that the differences between them are so great that I wouldn't really call it inspired by. There is one other character inspired by PC from campaign 1, but I don't want to reveal them yet because they haven't shown up yet. So that'll be fun when they do. Are there myths or stories in the verse that most folks would know, but the players haven't learned yet? Well, there is the whole. I think the ship. There's the story of the ship that I think is one that I kind of expected more people to get into or to think about. The ship called the Infinity, which is like a super mythological advanced ship that exists out there that nobody knows or talks about, and is like, oh, does the ship exist, and who runs the crew, and how are they part of the crew, and is it the Shadow King? And I will not comment on that. Still. Doc is the Shadow King, Lou says. So yeah, I think like that's one. I think people probably have like sell myths about like the Vect and how they came about, how they came to be. And then myths about like the Maws and people who were here before and who created the Maws and what exactly is going on there. And like it's never really, I think there's a lot of stories and myths about like you got these massive bones that ships are able to fly through and they have portals that go through the void. What is the deal with that, you know? I think stuff like that is the kind of things that would probably be stories that people would talk about a lot. What is the biggest galactic fast food chain? That's a good question. I feel like just by where we're at this point, the Void Co probably has some kind of chain that they own. I also feel like Mark's given me ideas before in the past that I just don't remember right now. So I'm sure there is one that's out there. But I also think like it's got to be something that is like meat's hard to get everywhere, right? Like, and it's like unless you're getting like intergalactic shipments of like burgers or something. I almost feel like an ice cream place, like a Dairy Queen, is like probably one of the biggest fast food kind of things you can, or fast food chains, I think, that's out there, because it's easy to store, easy to transport. You can have tons and tons of it. Yeah, I think so. JB asks, how common are magic items in the hands of everyday folks on Albion? I think it's becoming increasingly more common. I think in the beginning, or around when you guys got here, it was relatively common. You know, there's so much technology that's integrated with technology and magic that it's hard to really draw the line between like what's the light cantrip and what is a flashlight, you know, and like what is mage hand and what is a person with a special glove that gives them a telekinetic hand that they can use to reach things in a distance, or like one of those little grabber tools that people have. So I think pretty common for at least like common magic items, you know. I think once we start getting into more uncommon things, or especially things that are more built specifically, I think there's a lot of magic items and things that are for utility, that just are to like just small quality of life improvements for people. But probably more like the more crazier stuff like weapons and things like that probably aren't, because not as much use or not as much market for them. What would biologists call those tentacles on the whales other than creepy? Appendages? Phalanges? No, that's not. I don't even know what that word is. Let me look. What is that? Let's see. Phalange, another term for phalanx. No. Word recently. Is that some of our finger bones? Phalanx bones. The phalanges are the bones that make up the fingers of the hand and the toes of the foot. Okay, so that's not the right word, but we'll call them that. Phalanges. Yeah, thank you. The fingers of the phalanx. Yeah, because like they're not really like, I guess they are like tentacles. I don't. Yeah. Yeah. Then JB asks, have RP posts ever influenced the arc of the story as strongly as in-session events? Yeah, totally. I don't know if as consistently as strongly, just because, for one, just by like the nature of the game and what we're doing. But I do think, yeah, in some cases, maybe even stronger. Like, I don't like Eli starting his business and getting Mr. Marco involved in it, I think has had a huge effect on how antagonistic he's willing to be to the RAQ. Like, there are definitely things like that where it's like, oh, you went to go meet with this person, and it's like, and you guys had this conversation, and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, he may not be an enemy of you guys, or he may not be like an ally per se, but like, well, he's not as much of an enemy. In the bluegrass scene, yeah, he's like, nah, you guys are my compatriots in music now. So yeah, RP definitely has had influence over things for sure. There's also so many ways that things ripple out and expand from there that are just like in ways I not always able to really predict. You know, Bone Grundle sending rumors of our guy, Mr. Marco, out there in his off time. That's definitely made an effect. Some of the stuff with Lancelot, I think it was really influenced by a lot of the RP stuff with Out of Session too. So it really depends, you know. But yeah, I think there definitely has been. And there's also stuff that I think will still yet to be seen, especially like Elris spent a lot of time. Hey Eli, you saved my ass. What's this? Eli, the least evil, most peacemaking member of the RAQ. Well, you know, lawful evil, you know, it's kind of like you kind of, you know, you thrive. Businesses thrive better when there's stability, you know. Yeah, Marco's an ally to the goblins, quote quote. So we just need to start businesses with all the villains. I'm gonna say, oh, like Elris did a lot of work with I think some of the other players too, with Jack, the winter spirit that was in Canberry. So like next year, I'm excited to see how that influences things for Jack and for the town. That'll be cool. Let's see. John says, the primer says there are only 3 planes, upper, lower, and shadow. Where do the realms for the book fit into that? Is hell in the shadow realm and heaven in the upper? Books as in the books from the Book of Exalted Deeds and the Book of Vile Deeds. The upper planes are generally referred to as like the place where the heavens are, the celestial realm, things like that. And the lower realms, the lower planes, essentially is where hell and like the abyss and kind of that, or those kind of connotations are. Like that's where demons and devils are. The upper realms, the upper planes being, that's where angels and that's where the gods are and things like that. So theoretically, that's where they would need to be taken, to the upper realm and to the lower realm. The RQ has not had much adventures or time going into either of those places. I'm excited to see the time when they finally do decide to go there, because as they're learning, those places may have a bit of an impact on the campaign. And the Shadow Realm is sort of the stand-in for the Ethereal Realm. It also has other more abstract concepts with it too, but it's sort of the realm in between, the one that connects everything together. It's sort of like the underneath of the void in a way. But yeah. JB says, oh, what the happening like that? Because that's what's copying. I see. If you worked as an astrogator, an astrogator style mascot in another life, what would your character be? I feel like I would have a lot of fun being a mascot, because you get to wear a mask. Oh, second here. Sorry. Looking all the wrong things here. Because you get to be in a mask and nobody can really see you. You're kind of full covered. You can kind of be as silly as you want, and there's kind of like that freedom of anonymity where it's like you can just kind of be a goober and just go crazy out there. I would like to be something horrifying, like the Cthulhu monster, or like gritty. Something that is like, could be silly, but also unsettling. JB says, the one time we tried to go to the upper plane, we almost got killed at the door. Yes. Well, remember, you guys got to the upper plane by using the key that Dr. DeBolbic had. And so, gotta ask yourself why Dr. DeBolbic needed that key, or wanted to get into that part of the upper planes. So, yeah, I think that's what I would be. Some kind of horrid creature. If a player wanted to help Canberry switch its food source away from the whales, how would they do that? So the whales aren't gritty or Cthulhu. That's a window into our game. Yeah. Yeah, something silly but also unsettling. If that's not a good descriptor of the games, then yeah. Or maybe like my DM style. So I think Canberry isn't like really reliant on the whales as a food source per se. It is the cheapest, and it is, I think it's like their main export. It's their like main industry. So like, I think giving them another industry to explore would be better. Because now at this point, with trade, yeah, that one song. Because with trade and with how popular Canberry is going, they no longer need to be as self-reliant. So, yeah, I think that's the first step, is like trying to see a way that they can get into another industry and aren't so reliant on whaling. Obviously, there's other reasons why company wants whales, but yeah, maybe farming, you know, or chopping down trees in the woods there. We need a new vacation destination too. Exactly. Could be a vacation hotspot. JB also asks, if you could visit any place in the verse that you've created, what would your top 3 places be? Is it cheating if I say the fairy realm, the fairy tale realm, and the shadow realm? And maybe the turtle planet. I just think I don't even know what I would do on the turtle planet for Dahlia. I'm forgetting that's the name. I don't even know what I would do there. I guess that's cheating. Mintilla is now available for development. That's right. Oh, your mom's still out there too. That's right. Yeah, we still haven't gotten there. Who's developed Mintilla? Mintilla is a town where Azeron's temple was. I think I would like to visit Albion. Maybe Cloudfield more than Canberry. But just because I've always said from the beginning that Albion is a little bit more saturated and a little more like in terms of like color. The sky is like a little bit bluer, and something about the colors on the planet just kind of pop a little bit more. And I kind of would like to see what that's like in real life. Turtle Planet, because the guys who don't like music, I just feel like I would go to war with them. And it would just be funny to kind of mess with them and be like, I am the bringer of music. And then I think maybe the Taizu Federation, Taizu, in hopes that I could find a big mecha. I've never been really big into mecha animes, or the mecha genre in general, but I think there's just always something satisfying about finding a big robot. Gurren Lagann, I think, is the closest I've gotten into mecha animes recently. Great anime so far. That is one that I think has greatly influenced me recently. Gurren Lagann has it starts out very a very simple story, and no real spoilers, but by the end of it there's like an intergalactic war and you're just like, whoa, how did we get here? This is crazy. So yeah, I think those 3 places would be my places. Let's see. If it hasn't come up, could we get a 30-second retelling of the War of Spheres? Essentially, the War of Spheres, there's a throne in the Taizu Federation. Taizu Federation? Within Taizu, that is like seen as like the symbolic throne of control. There's also some like actual magical reasons for wanting to have control of the Throne of Spheres, and essentially between conflicts between the Taizu at the time were, a lot of times the orcs and the goblins and a lot of the humans in those times were seen as more barbaric, but they were also like at war with each other a lot of times, and they sort of started to unite and become their own kind of larger people, much like the Elven Empire and the Dwarven Kingdom kind of had already. And when they started to come together and form like one peoples, essentially, I think this is kind of seen like as a threat, because like the especially the Dwarven Kingdom of Stone kind of could go into their territories and kind of take advantage of the fact that like, oh, you guys are too busy fighting to use these resources, we can take these. And eventually there was a conflict when they wanted sovereignty for themselves and pushed back against them, and then eventually I'm almost certain, because it's all off the top of my head, that the dwarves destroyed the orc homeworld, and then after that there was like a big retributive, like, that was wrong, and then they kind of pulled back from there, and Taizu Federation formed afterwards. That's like about a 30-second retelling of what happened there. let's see. So Ryan asks, as of right now, who is my favorite NPC of this campaign? Uh, Gotta be Borin the turtle. Um, it's very funny to ride. It's very funny to ride the line of being like an old pervert guy who's just like, he's not like outwardly like doing anything that you're like, oh, this guy needs to be arrested or like or this guy is like, oh yeah, this guy needs to be added to a list. But he's always pushing just on the line of like, okay, man. Okay, dude, you gotta chill. You gotta chill out for a little bit. Like you're getting a little too crazy here. Very funny, kind of playing as him um and getting to explore that. Um, let's see. That's been fun. Um, yeah, Bourne would definitely come by and visit for sure. Uh, he's just got his own stuff. But also too, like it has been hilarious, like the conversations with him and with Elris and with Fina, especially Elris being like, "Okay, old man, you gotta chill." Like, um, that's been fun. You see who else? Mr. Marco, I think also has been one of my favorites just because of he has a lot of um there's a lot of layers to him, and also the fact that at the end of the day he is based on a goblin from the last campaign who the party took with them home just on a whim, and he was just like, yeah, I'll go with you guys, and then robbed the party and like took a bunch of their stuff and was never seen again. And the fact that like he is based on that, it adds just another layer of complexity to the character that I really love. um, so he also asks, you get one song to listen to for the rest of your life, what is it? I often go through phases where I listen to one song for like 90 times until it's out of my system, and then I'm like, okay, now it's done. Um, I think I'd have to choose Moonlight Sonata. That's one. It's very long. I can listen to it a lot. There's a lot of different sections to it, and I can kind of listen to. Um, Hatchbell Canon on the piano. That one's always been very soothing for me. I like that one a lot. Or like people know it as like the wedding song or whatever, but or the Kingdom Hearts song Simple and Clean. I know I've mentioned 3 songs and you said only pick one, but it's one of those 3 for sure. I can listen to those a lot. Ooh. He also asks, if you were given the chance to rewrite the ending of any movie or TV series, what would it be? Bonus points if you have an idea. What would you have done? He also adds a writer that Game of Thrones does not count because any a room full of monkeys could have created that. Camping when Marco was canonically murdered by Darkscale. Was he? I think even just the satisfaction of him getting to steal from you guys was good enough. But rewriting an ending of a movie or TV series, if I could I feel like I really could easily rewrite The Last Skywalker. There's so many missteps that were done there. I wouldn't have called it The Last Skywalker. And I oh, the post-credit scene, yeah. Could have just, not had the whole. I mean, I would have rewritten that whole movie from start to finish. I would not have had Palpatine is somehow alive. That's crazy. Wow, what a way to undo so much of your storytelling and ruin so much of your past work by doing that. Man. That one by Yuki Hayashi. I haven't done that. I do like that one a lot, but I think that one makes me too emotional. Because I'm thinking like the types of songs that I'm like, okay, I need to listen to music all the time. And if I'm listening to this music while I'm washing clothes or like cleaning the house and stuff like that, then I'm like, oh man. But yeah, I think the Star Wars, there's so much potential there, and it just makes me so angry. Oh, the oh, you're talking about that one by Yuki Hayashi. The bad guy theme song, the creepy one. I do like that one a lot. There's this other one by Yuki Hayashi that is like it's like when All Might is giving his speech. That one makes me super emotional because it's such like an inspirational kind of song where it's just, I don't know. Music is like a cheat code for like accessing our emotions and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna have to leave it as Star Wars. I don't know if there's any other. There are definitely some TV series that I was like, some anime that I was like, this didn't end as good as I thought it would be, but I think nothing makes me angrier than how Star Wars ends. Mark asks, does Simon have a class? If there was like a businessman class, that would be Simon's class. I don't think he has a fighting class. That's another thing I think that makes him different than like Nisha, who Nisha was a previous adventurer, a previous hunter, and was out there doing stuff. And Simon's more like he has a history and a past, but it's more like I'm gonna rise up to the top and make money and do stuff, you know. Yeah, businessman class. He gets proficiency in definitely proficiency in deception. He's got proficiency in bureaucratic paperwork, and he has he's definitely got a bonus to intelligence. I think overall is his highest stat, but I think there's like just an unfathomable nature about him that's very much like, yeah, I hire a bunch of misfits and randos from all over the verse and stuff, and I hope they're gonna make me money, and this will be a return of investment. And that's a rogue. Rogue wizard multi-class. Yeah, maybe he's a rogue wizard. I don't think he does magic though, but who knows? His new trademark gift. I think Simon views it more like as like free publicity, because even if it's not like definitely being for the benefit of him, he's like, whatever. The name gets out there more. Like, okay. He's like, I feel like, although he is definitely on the lawful side, I don't feel like he is his own. I don't think he's as much of a stickler for like rules per se. More rulings, I think, is what he's on. But yeah, organization is its own magic, but this makes it for his benefit. Yes, yeah. But the thing is too, there's also some like bit of like shielding that he can put. Like if this goes well, he can be like, hey, RIQ gets a better name for themselves. If this goes poorly, he could be like, hey, we're not affiliated with this. It's nothing to do with our trademark, and actually we're gonna sue those guys for like, you know, using our name or whatever. Like I don't know. But yeah. I think that is all of our questions. Looking here. Anything else you guys got, or anything else you curious about? We are gonna reach session 1000 I think this weekend. Fingers crossed. Pretty exciting. Pretty wild to think. Let's see. Oh, we are 2 sessions away. So this will probably be our Thursday night game. Will be 99. So either our 4th of July game or our Thursday night game. One of those two will be the Quest 1000. Uh, yes, that's suing. That was what Zelda wanted. Yes. Have you checked out the Warden yet? I checked out the old Warden. I haven't checked out the new updated one if they released it. Um, I much, even though like some of the classes are wild and like their abilities and things like that, I much prefer the introduction of these newer mechanics and new ideas. 1000 is Thursday night. Wow, that's crazy. Um, I like Mage Hand Press's approach to some of these classes and the things they're willing to try out and do. Um, and again, it's the kind of why I've introduced all these other weird mechanics, because it's like there's definitely something that I have always found lacking from D&D 5e. And it's funny because you'll hear a lot of conversations or see a lot of conversations, especially on Reddit, of people being like, you play 5e long enough and you realize that what you want is 4e, a system where all the classes are balanced and they get rid of the archaic systems and everyone has simple to understand abilities, and all of the abilities can engage with different character styles, where you would have a controller type, kind of a battlefield maneuver type, like fighter type essentially, tank, and all these things. It was definitely more MMORPG coded, but it also gave you a better streamlined understanding of like what your role in the game would be, so that you would know like, okay, I'm playing a wizard, but I'm playing a more controller type wizard, and so here's the abilities I'm going to use, here's a selection and things like that. A lot of players just didn't like how different it was from a lot of the stuff from the previous editions, and how similar it was to video games. But then here we are today. No, majority of the player base plays online and uses a grid system and uses maps and things like that. So it's interesting that one of the major complaints for a lot of the stuff has been the classes aren't balanced enough, or they don't feel as impactful, or some of these martial classes don't have as many things to do. So it's kind of like why I introduced a lot of these abilities, like the stuff with the Firm and the Cabal, of adding these stances and other things that can modify and add ways for you guys to change things without it, and change the battlefield without having to make a new subclass and make a new feature and make a new feat that people have to choose to get it. So that's been kind of my exploration with that. And I have found that they are right, at least for the most part. Of like, yeah, I do look back at 4E a lot, and I'm like, man, that would have been interesting. What are you gonna do? Tibby also asks, what should we have asked but didn't? I think you should ask yourselves some questions. Mainly, like, what do you guys want to do? I think, like in the last campaign, there were definitely clear moments where the players kind of realized that, like, inaction has just as much effect on the world as action does. And I think in this campaign, I would not say that you guys have been inactive. That's for sure. But I am curious as to, especially as some of your characters are getting to the higher points of tier 3 and getting close to tier 4, what are the things that you what are the things that you think our characters are going to want to do as you're getting to these points in the story? Because as you get to those higher points, you have more influence on the world and the things around you, as we've obviously seen. And I think, like, even deciding at a certain point, who are you going to ally yourselves with? Who are you going to clearly make enemies with? I think that's something that, this is a choice that players are always hesitant to make. And kind of asking yourselves, like, what's going to happen next? Because, I don't know what's going to happen. But also, I would remind you that in, like another 9 months, in another 9 months, Avarax will be here. So whatever that means for the campaign, I'm excited to see how you guys react to that. But definitely looking forward to Quest 1000. Thank you guys. Congratulations. It's wild to think that we've gone through so many quests, so many adventures, so many stories. And yeah, I want to see their new subclasses for existing classes, rogue, warlock, etc. Yeah, they've always got interesting stuff. I want to see how they, because I've been looking at the updates for the dark matter stuff too. Like it looks like they are expanding on some of the stuff, so I'm really interested in seeing what they do there. But yeah, is his girlfriend coming with him? I have questions for her. Who knows? Man, that's gonna be fun. Oh man, I think honorary mention, Muku has been a super fun NPC just because he's so dumb. And it's like very few times where I feel like I get to be like just a big dumb guy who's just like I'm just strong and I just want to hit things and like, but like even then in that very like a way Muku way of like almost like oblivious to certain things around you, like Muku's fun. But yeah, any other questions, y'all? I think we're at the end of our time. If nothing else. Portal Rogue needs an overhaul. I'll take a look at that one. I would like him better if he stopped pile driving Fina. The pile drive. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. This has been fun as always. We gotta do one of these where I give you guys a Q&A and, and get a whole list of questions. But all right. I'm gonna finish my food. Thanks for playing, everybody. Thanks for joining. Looking forward to the next 1,000 quests. Whatever that looks like. But I hope you guys have a good one. See somebody tomorrow. Take care, everybody.